Hello. In this video, we're going to go over the systemd timers in Linux. You can think of systemd timers are just like cron jobs that you're probably used to, when you use cron tab and run cron jobs at certain intervals to execute scripts or do backups or do something like that. Well, systemd timers they do the same thing, but they just do it in a slightly different way. And it's a little bit better and a little bit more clear on how they work than like when cron jobs run. Because with systemd timers, you can easily get the status. You can see when the last timer ran, see the status of it, see when it's going to run next. So you have a little bit more tools. You have all the systemd tools like journalctl to kind of look at errors. Whereas with cron jobs and cron tab, you don't have that. And they're very simple. There's not much to it. You'll catch on really quick. So let's dive right in. The first thing we need to do is we need to create two files. The two files are going to be a service file and then a timer file. So let's create the service file, and you're going to do this like you create any other service in systemd. We're going to store it in here. So let's just call it foo.service. So we're going to make that. And then there's just a few things we need to put in here. So we need to give it a description. So we can do unit. And this is your standard systemd service file. So description, some test script. We got that. And then we need the service block. And then now here's what we're going to do. What is our service going to do when the timer actually executes this? An exec start. And then here you can run like a bash script, or you can just run a command. It's kind of up to you. It's what you're going to be doing. For simplicity of this video, I'm going to just have it run a command. And kind of like how cron jobs work, when you run commands through a cron job or through the systemd timers, you need to kind of give it the shell. So we're going to do then.sh and then execute the command. If we were to try to do like, let's just say we did echo go foobar, this wouldn't work. We need to, this would work actually. But if we did, this, it would not work. So we need to do the user ben sh this to work. So we need -c. We'll do that, and then we'll just have what we'll have our thing do is we'll have it just echo to a file. So let's do user. Is it user ben echo maybe? I think that's what we want. So we're going to do that. And then we'll echo foobar into a file. I've got this. We'll just do this here, and we'll name it foo.log. Let's just name it bar, so we've got too many foods going on. So let's name it foo.bar or bar.log. And then that's kind of what we need for our service file. So you can look, there's not much to it. And I'll give you there'll be a link to, I wrote an ebook on Linux commands, and it discusses about the service files for timers. So I'll put a link to that so you can go and download that if you wanted to get these examples here. I'll put that in the description. So we've got this. So now let's create the timer file. Of course, I didn't sudo in this. Let me just copy this. So now I just sudoed it. So now we need to create the timer file. The timer file, you have to name these files the same names. So since I named it foo.service, I need to name this foo.timer. So the timer file is specified by the .timer, but the foo here, this foo matches this foo here. So they have to be the same name. That's how they kind of know about each other. Essentially this timer file is what's going to notify that service, and then the service is going to perform the actual action, if that makes sense. Let's add this. So then we're going to have the same unit here. We have a description. We'll name this my test timer. Then we're going to have a timer block. And this is where we're going to set a few things. This is kind of like we're going to set the schedule of the timer. And just like with cron jobs or anything like that, you can set, to 1 minute. You can even set to seconds if you wanted to. With cron jobs, you can only set to like the lowest part I think you can do is a minute interval. With the timers, you can do it less than that if you need it. So let's put on, there's a few different timers you can have. We're going to start with just the one that can run at an interval. That's kind of what we're looking for in this video. So we're going to add the on calendar block. And then here we can specify how often we want to run it. So for this example, let's do every minute, just so we can see it easier. And I always forget this syntax on the timers, so you can, Google this. I have to Google it every time. I can never remember. And then there's a tool I'll explain in a sec that you can actually verify that what your timer has is actually valid, which is cool. So let's run this every minute. So we got that. So then we can do 0/1. And that will essentially do 1 minute. If we wanted to do hourly, we could do hourly. But let's do 1 minute so we can get kind of feedback fast on this. Right, then we're going to add the persistent equal to true. And what this persistent block does, you don't have to have it, but if anything happens on the server, like something goes down or something, when you have persistent as true, it's gonna catch itself up and run the timer again. So if it missed some chances to actually trigger that timer, when everything comes back up, the persistent is going to make sure it triggers that service again to run the script and trigger the job. So we got that, and then the last block we can do is uninstall, and then we can do wanted by timers.target, and you don't need to worry about this too much. This kind of like says when in the process does this actually get triggered. So there's two different ones. There's multi-timers target and then timers target. Just stay with the timers target. If you need to change that for any reason, you can look that up and for your needs, but you probably won't need to change it. So this is all we need for our timers. This is basically just these two files, so that's easy enough. So now, just like any other service you do, we need to do a daemon reload to reload our service file. And then now to just start our timer, all we should have to do is CTL. Let's check the status of some of these. Let's go foo.service. Let's check the status. So if you can see, nothing's running. So let's check the foo.timer. It's not running yet at all. So let's start the timer. We're starting the timer, not the service. So now we've started that. So now we go to our timer. It is waiting. So you can see our service is now triggered by foo.timer. You can kind of see how this had green here. If you can see this right here. Whereas above, when we did that, it didn't have anything. So we basically just started the timer, and then now it's triggered. So now we can do something like CTL list timers. I forget a lot of this syntax sometimes, so look it up. Feel free. I have to look it up a lot. And you can see this is my timer. So with cron jobs, you can't see this. But you can see how it says 29 seconds left until it runs again. And you can see it last ran 16 seconds ago. Oh, this is actually, what did I name mine? Foo? I've got an old one here. Let me actually stop that one. I'm going to stop the timer. All right, so now if I run the timers, you can see that touch one went away. But this is our timer here. You can see it ran 43 seconds ago. And let's look at our service file again. So we're echoing foobar. Let's just add foobar video to it. And you see we just did that. So since we modified it, we're gonna reload that. And I don't think we need to restart our timer. I think it will just work. We're gonna find out. So we got our timer. So 10 seconds left, 7 seconds. So let's do a let's cat our file. We stored it in home. You see we have the foo.log. Or no, we named it bar.log, I think, right? So now we have, it's adding records here. So as it goes, you're gonna see more records being added. So we've got 25 seconds left until the next run. All right, so that next run is over. You can see how it's saying now 57 seconds left. So now if I cat this, we should see another foobar video. So you can see up here, it just had the one foobar video, but down here, it has multiple. So our job is running correctly. So you can see how simple that is. And if you needed to get logs, you can do, if you want to see more error messages, you could do sudo, what is it, bar or foo.service. You can get more information here if there may be errors. Information if there's issues here, and you can see it says unknown key name. All right, maybe the description is actually not used anymore. So let's just delete that and see what happens. Let me reload. I don't think I need to actually reload right now. But let's restart the timer. Now let's do that. So now that goes away. Okay, I guess the description is not on the timer anymore. I'll have to double check that, but I guess that's what the case is there. So we got that. So we can also do your typical, just your general CTL to see if you have any more errors here, if you wanted to. But you can see how it's kind of nice to be able to get the errors when things are going on. So you can do like, let's look for the status of this. So the status is running. Status is good. So now let's force an error. So let's open up our service file, and let's modify the echo to be like this. So this is not a valid command. So we can do that. So it's still going to see the service is valid because the timer has not hit it yet. So let's see when the next time our timer is actually going to run. That's what's super useful about the systemd timers versus cron jobs. I can literally see when it's going to run next. So we've got 25 seconds. All right, so now our timer has ran. So let's check the status of service. And it still says it is valid. Is that because... Oh, I need to do daemon reload. I always forget that. Let me restart as well. I don't think I need to restart the service, so I'm going to do it just for the heck of it. Now let's check to see when it runs again. So we've got 20 seconds left. So let's check the status. All right, see, here we go. It failed here. And you can see the error here. It's because of this. This is essentially what failed. You can see it failed, triggered by the timer. So now you can see that it failed. Let's look at our journal for timer, but that's fine. The timer did not fail. The timer did what it's supposed to do. It triggered the service. But if we do our service file, now you can see that it did fail. You can see the errors here that it failed, the code. So that's great. One thing with the service, like if that failed, if we're just running like a backup script, we're not going to know if that failed. So what we need to do is we need to set up something to email us if the script fails. And I'm not going to create all this. I'm not going to, well, let's just go through it. Let's create it. So I think on the, see if I remember, we can add a service file to trigger the email. So let's add, well, first let's tell our service what to do on failure. We can add a on, and I'm in my my foo.service file here. So we can add a on failure. We can have it trigger a different service essentially. So we're going to have it trigger an email service that we're going to create in just a second. So let's just name it send email at %n.service. And this %n will take on the name of this service. So let's get out of that. And I've actually already created this, I think, this file. So let's look for, so we've got send email and we've named it, you see how it's @.service? That essentially that %n we had in the other file will just map to that. So it's kind of a placeholder. So you could have multiple timers that all call this same email here. So it kind of can be a catch-all, which is good. So we've got this file. This is your typical service file. You've got unit, description, and then the service, the type is going to be one shot, which is just going to be triggered by this other service. And then we have the same thing, exec start, like we had on our others, where you can specify what you want to do. This could call a script. This could kind of do anything you want, but we want it to send an email. So I just have some generic things here. What happens is when this job fails, so when this job fails, it will now trigger and send me an email. So if I have critical backup scripts running, I will be notified if something fails on that now. Where previously you wouldn't be notified. You'd have to go to like the status to kind of see that it's failing. So great. So now you know how to run, set up the systemd files, set up the timer, services, and trigger an email. There's one last thing I'll go over really quick, just so you can validate your command. So you can do system, or validate your interval for the timer. Systemd analyze calendar. And let's take our one from before, where we're going to do every 1 minute. And it'll kind of tell us what's going on. So from now, it would be 33 seconds left. Next time it would run would be at this time here. And this here is the normalized format. So let's say we changed this to 20. Now it says from now it'll run in 2 minutes, 14 seconds. And this is essentially every 20 minutes this will run. So let's add something here. So we have an invalid one here. So it tells you that it's invalid. Like, that's stuff you don't get with when you use cron tab or cron jobs, which is nice thing about systemd. So you just kind of get a little bit more flexibility with this. So we do hourly. So now it's going to say in 21 minutes it'll run, and it'll tell you at 1600 it'll run. So that's the gist of systemd timers. If you want these examples that I go over, I have them in my ebook that I created. I will drop a link in the description, and you can go and download that. And if you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.